What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Snowcast Sports Talk, episode 10, guys. And for the 10th episode, we have Gio here, the man, the myth, running the KidBlueRB27 YouTube channel. What's going on, Gio? Thanks for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you bringing me on.
So, when I started doing this, I went to a Giants game last year, and I got to meet a couple content creators. So I'm going to give you a little shout out right now because you were the one content creator I didn't meet who got back to me. I sent out all these emails, all these messages, and I was like, oh man, starting a YouTube channel, doing all this fun stuff. And you're the one person who I didn't get to meet in person that got back to me. So I really appreciate you being here.
No problem, man. Like I said, it's an honor having me on, man. I appreciate you.
Awesome. We were talking a little bit, guys, before we started the episode. We're probably at the most, this is the most quiet time being a New York Giants fan. We just finished free agency. Draft's coming up in about 13 days. So me and Gio, we were talking before, we're like, it's just, there's not much going on right now. So maybe a little bit quicker of an episode. I got some stuff I wanted to talk to you about. So usually the way we do it is we go through kind of your history, football, YouTube, but I wanted to switch it up a little bit and actually start with some draft conversation since it is only 13 days away.
Yeah.
So I just, the first thing I got to ask you, and I think anyone who watches Kid Blue knows this is the first question you have to ask. Trayvon Walker. Love him, hate him. We know Kid Blue where he is, even though on April Fool's he tried to fool us with it. Kid Blue, I think it's fair for me to say you are probably the least excited Trayvon Walker person on the platform right now.
It's weird. I've become pretty vocal about like the anti. It's funny. I'm not even that anti Trayvon Walker. Like I think he's solid to me. It's just I hate how everybody was overrating him, whether it be on Twitter or like YouTube or even like NFL analysts that I have a lot of respect for. Like Daniel Jeremiah is a guy I listen to a lot, and the way he talks about Trayvon Walker, I'm just like I don't see what everybody's seeing. Like I watch film on him. I watched a couple of games on him. I'm just not seeing the stardom that a lot of people see in him. I know I get the combine stuff, but I'm not the biggest top 10 Trayvon Walker guy. I think Trayvon Walker is probably a bottom first round player in my honest opinion, like top 25 or something like that. But I just don't envision him being anywhere close to a top 5 pick, and I want him to stay away from the Giants. But I don't hate Trayvon Walker. It's just I hate how I dislike him more and more the more people overrate him.
I was just going to say that. I think what's happening, I know you can't see me, but for the viewers watching, as Trayvon Walker goes up in people's eyes, we have Kid Blue to keep us going the other way, keeping like that equilibrium. Because you're right. The past few weeks, we've seen him go from like a teens 10 to 20 pick all the way up to now being at number 1 to the Jaguars.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe they would pass up on Tibbs and on Aiden Hutchinson for this guy at number 1, but people actually believe it.
Yeah, and if people want to make a case for like over Jermaine, because Jermaine Johnson is also like a guy that is kind of developmental. I feel like he's a better prospect than Trayvon Walker is right now. But if you want to make a debate for like Trayvon over Jermaine Johnson or George Karlaftis, if you want to make that argument, you can. But there's nobody that can tell me that Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson are not going to be, or they're not a better prospect than Trayvon Walker. Like I think people are just really looking at potential, and they really base things off of the combine. And we've seen combine warriors before. Our own like Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez was like a
combine hero.
He was like a he was like a late second round, third round prospect before the combine. He had a really solid combine. A lot of people started mocking him in the first round. I remember it's like Cincinnati and things like that. And then, he became one of my favorite, but I kind of drank the Kool-Aid as well. He became one of my favorite prospects too. And I was really looking at him in the second round, and he shot up draft boards as well. Like there's a lot of combine warriors that, have great, phenomenal combines because they test well athletically, but as a football player, it's kind of a different thing. You could be a fantastic athlete. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be, a great football player. And Trayvon Walker is a good football player. I just don't think he's better than Aiden Hutchinson, who I think is like probably the most pro-ready day one
yeah.
football player in this draft. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right about the draft too. You know, putting on pads and having people hitting you is very different than running around in an indoor stadium in nothing but like a muscle shirt. You know,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
I think, you know, for me personally, and I think you probably would agree, I think the combine's more important for, you know, coaches and GMs being able to actually sit down with these guys rapid fire and, you know, pick their brains, see them pick apart some plays, see what that football IQ is. The tests to me sometimes are even silly. Like, we see people like Talking Giants who just make jokes about it because it's actually kind of a joke.
Yeah, it is. It is. Some of them are kind of really badly organized. I've noticed some of them are just really bad, like especially some of the foot drills or something like that that they do. I'm like, I don't understand how that's helpful at all. But I mean, I guess coaches and GMs are looking and scouts are looking at that. But I mean, I know the players are probably like, what the hell are they have us doing? Like, can we do like football stuff?
And they're
like,
probably stressing.
They're
probably stressing about it.
I had an idea, like if the combine was maybe I don't know. I would say more like a 7-on-7 or like maybe some kind of scrimmage. Do some kind of scrimmage to test, you know, football IQ and like chemistry and things like that. Maybe they could do something like that in the combine, not just do like drills and stuff like that. If they can do some sort of scrimmage, I don't know whether they have pads on or not. I know arguably that's like what the Senior Bowl is, but like I don't know, something that to more so test their ability as a football player more so than their ability as an athlete. I don't know. I was thinking about that for a couple years. I'm like, hey, they got to do something like that because it's just, I don't know. The drills don't seem very useful.
I totally agree. One of the ideas I've always had was bringing some of the players in from the team and letting those players meet each other. I think one of like the most underrated things in football is team chemistry. Like, so I live in New England, so I live around a ton of Patriots fans. It's miserable, but you know, the Patriots are one of those teams where the chemistry was just so good. They had no superstars really besides Brady, but the team chemistry was good. So, you know, during the draft, maybe, you know, for the Giants, for example, like if you're looking at linemen, bring in like Andrew Thomas, bring in like someone else who can kind of sit down and like be like, oh yeah, this guy would fit well in a room, or I don't know about this guy. It might be.
That's a good idea, especially like if you look in like in the NBA, right? These players are going out, like LeBron, right? For example, these players, they're going out and getting those recruiting themselves. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whether that be in draft or like in free agency. You know, we see a little bit of that in football. Like our own Logan Ryan went out and recruited, or Dory Jackson. But that's a really good idea. Get one of like your star players, like Andrew Thomas, right? He's an up and coming star tackle. Hey, Andrew, who do you think was better, you know, on the other side of you? You know, well, what do you see here? Or, you know, I feel like that would be a really good idea for them to bring in players and, you know, see who's the best fit for their team.
Yeah, even old college teammates. So if you're looking at like a Georgia, if you're looking at Georgia State guy, or is it Georgia? Yeah, I think that's. It would be weird if we brought in Aziz to talk about talk about Walker. I don't mean to loop back around. But
Oh God. Oh man.
maybe it wouldn't work out for you.
No, like, Aziz, don't. You're not invited.
Oh man. But you know, we can sit here and talk about, you know, all the bad parts of the draft, but we do make opinions, and I know you're more of a Neal over a Kwanu guy, but if you could like pick anyone at 5 for the Giants, like who's the one guy you want the most? Like who's your favorite player in the draft?
If I had to pick, it would be Aiden Hutchinson. Like he's my favorite guy. I think he's the most pro ready in this draft. And on top of that, it's such a valued position. The edge rush position is one of the most valuable positions in the draft, and to have him as the best player in the draft, in my opinion, I think that's a no-brainer. I would definitely take Aiden Hutchinson any day. And I think he would be a really good fit in tandem with Azeez Ojulari. I love Aiden Hutchinson. I think he could fit pretty much any scheme. I know a lot of people really have him as like a 4-3 guy, but he stands up as well. I feel like he could fit in our scheme pretty fine. But second would have to be Evan Neal. I love Evan Neal.
Me too. It's my favorite guy.
Oh, yeah. And Ikem as well. Ikem's great, but I just feel like I'm a big – any Alabama lineman, you know, besides maybe like I know Jordan Williams is he's getting better. Like Alex Leatherwood, he wasn't very good a couple of years ago. But like any Alabama lineman you can get,
pretty safe.
Yeah, pretty safe. And especially if they have like the kind of career that like an Evan Neal had, where he started off at guard, then went to tackle, then moved to left tackle. That's a great resume to have. He's going to be extremely good in the NFL, especially if he needs to fit any position, whether it be guard or tackle. You know, so yeah, I definitely Aiden Hutchinson and Evan Neal.
Yeah, those guys are amazing. The thing that I always get very uncomfortable with Evan Neal is just people thinking he's going to fall to 5. I just can't see it happening.
I know.
I look at all these mock drafts. Like, literally every day I look at new mock drafts, and Neal is there more than half the time at 5.
And it's crazy because he was like the consensus #1 overall pick, but then everybody's like, Cam Robinson was franchise tagged by Jacksonville, and I know I think they added Brandon Scherf, if I'm not mistaken, Jacksonville did, and they probably added another lineman as well, so they feel like, oh, maybe they're good at tackle, maybe they are good at tackle, but you know what it is? It's the rise of Trayvon Walker, and if Trayvon Walker goes above 5, then so be. I think it's a huge mistake by whatever team.
It's great for the Giants.
Drafts them. Great for the Giants. So Trayvon Walker, I know Malik Willis has been floating around as a potential pick for the Detroit Lions. If that happens, fine with me. If we can get like Aiden Hutchinson, I cannot see. He's not going to fall past 2. There's no way. There's no way. Jacksonville and Detroit has such a big need at edge rusher. They can't pass up on him. So Aiden Hutchinson is gone. But if we can get Malik Willis and Trayvon Walker off the board, that would
huge.
Oh my God, be huge, man. It would be left up to the Jets pretty much to really be like, okay, who are you taking?
Or you can make a case. Sauce Gardner's the best pick with all these wide receivers going in the AFC East.
I've seen those types of mock drafts where it's not I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's definitely possible. Like, I've seen those mock drafts where Sauce Gardner goes 4th overall, and Trayvon going to like the Texans or something like that. Maybe Malik going. Man, that would be such a perfect draft situation.
I will have you back on this podcast, and we will celebrate. If that is how it goes down, I'm telling you right now, I will send you a message or an email and be like, get your butt back on here.
I would love to go back on.
I mean, you can make the case for it. If you go line by line. So Jacksonville's #1. So they've, like you said, they've signed some O-linemen, and defensive edge paired with Josh Allen would be huge. I think they're the biggest threat to take Neal. I think if Neal isn't taken #1, so then again, you go 2. They took, who was the lineman they took last year? Penny Sewell.
Yeah, so they're pretty good. They have a really underrated offensive line. Their offensive line is pretty good. So.
And then #3, we have Levy Smith, a defensive coach in Texas or in Houston. And then
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And then 4th, the Jets. It's a defensive coach and all the wide receivers in the AFC East now. So I guess you can make the argument. That is. Man, this might be the best transition I've ever done on script. That leads right into best player available or positional need. And I always like to pick people's minds about it because everyone loves to go, best player available, best player available. That has been screwing over the Giants for a while. Like, Saquon Barkley still has me scarred. Like, man, you know what? Yeah. Let's say Neal and Ekwonu are off the board and they take Cross at 5. I won't be super pissed. Will I be bummed out? Yeah, I'll be a little bummed out. But will I be, like, destroyed? No. We need offensive linemen. So I wanted to ask you, where do you kind of fall on this best player available positional need?
I think you really have to find a happy medium between the two. You really have to like look at your top 5 needs and then go, who are the best players that are in those top 5 needs. Like, obviously, if there was a top 5 type receiver in this draft, for example, but the Giants are okay at receiver right now. Like, I don't know that I would take a receiver right now. Maybe if you say like Jamar Chase, if Jamar Chase is on the board, would you take him? Like, with hindsight, probably, right? But then you look at our needs right now that we have at offensive line, that we have at edge rusher, and I don't know if you come to me and say like this is the top receiver in this draft on the board, like if Drake London was a top 5 receiver or something like that in this draft. I don't know that I would take him because it really doesn't fit my top
I've seen it
5
mocked.
needs,
I've seen it mocked at 7. Us taking a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think it was Todd McShay at 7 had us taking. Oh, check this out.
Yeah,
he had us taking Trayvon Walker and Garrett Wilson. I was like,
I saw your tweet.
Oh my God, that would be the worst possibility. But as far as best player available goes, you really have to look at it, man, because a lot of people really fall in love with the best player available thing. But okay, a good example is the Baltimore Ravens at 14. And a lot of people, especially Baltimore Ravens fans, when I made my mock draft, a lot of people, those people wanted Tyler Linderbaum, right? And Tyler Linderbaum, I guess, would fit at the time he was like best player available because he was like a top 10 guy at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, if he falls to 14, Linderbaum should be the pick. But the thing is, Linderbaum could be the best offensive lineman in the world. But the Baltimore Ravens have such a strong offensive line. With one hole, they have four strong players at that offensive line. They just need a center. How much of an impact is Linderbaum gonna do on a great offensive line, even if he was best player available at the time? How much of an impact is he going to make on your team if you add another great offensive lineman to already 4 great offensive linemen? Why don't you just go out there and look at your needs? What do you really need? Like, they need interior, defensive line. They need edge rusher. They need corners, So you really have to find that happy medium there of like who's the best player available, but also fits your biggest needs.
That's very well said. And it as you're saying, and I'm just thinking about how Dave Gettleman messed it up both times. He took Saquon Barkley when taking best player available probably wasn't the best move, and then he took Daniel Jones when taking positional need was not the best decision.
Yeah,
so he did not find the happy medium.
He found a way to make an argument against both sides.
Either.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a running gag on this podcast. It's thank you, Dave Gettleman. We just say it at least 3 times an episode because he just creeps up and bugs me. The only thing we can thank him for, and I give Judge more credit, is having 5 and 7. That's the only thing I give them credit for.
I will say, I am still very upset that we kind of missed out on Rashawn Slater and Micah Parsons.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
It's it would be a Giants thing, right? That those
trade
are.
Back.
Yeah, right. We finally trade back, and we miss out on 2 literal All-Pro rookies. Rashawn Slater made second team All-Pro, and Micah Parsons made first team All-Pro. Those 2 players literally made All-Pro as rookies, and we missed them. We traded back. We finally traded back, and we get Kadarius Toney, who I like, but injury bug, I really like that we did trade back, but with, of course, hindsight is 20/20 at all times. But Micah Parsons or Rashawn Slater, I was banging the table at the time for Rashawn Slater. I really wanted Slater badly, and if we had Rashawn Slater now, offensive line wouldn't be an issue.
You're right.
With 5 and with the 5th pick, right? We would have only the 5th pick if we just stood at If we just stood at that, I think at 11 last year, and took Rashawn Slater, and then maybe we just go after Kayvon Thibodeau, or maybe someone other prospect, and we don't have to worry about offensive line. But
hindsight's 20/20. That's the thing, and you just transitioned nicely as well. Your reactions are beautiful. I love your reactions.
I just go off the cuff, man. Just like as soon as I have something to say, I'm just gonna say it.
So whenever I have guests on, I've been watching you since what was the video? It was the Odell Beckham reaction. That was when I first.
A lot of my subs come from there.
And it was one of the best things I've ever seen because you're in this great denial, and then you're just like no, and then your co-host, whoever's with you, he goes, no, it's actually real, and you just you pause. And I know you're loading for the rant, and it was amazing. The Jabril Peppers rant, it was so well done.
I know a lot of people. I used to do calling the show a lot more frequent than I do now. But every time somebody called in, they just say Jabril Peppers, Jabril Peppers. But yeah, I mean that was completely in shock because Dave Gettleman, he was kind of I think it was his second. He was his second year with us, if I'm not mistaken. And so I didn't really know, nobody really knew of his kind of strategies yet. And, he lied straight to our face saying, he didn't sign him to trade him, right? That's the famous line that everybody knows from Dave Gettleman. We didn't sign Odell Beckham to trade him. And they traded him. And I just felt so betrayed by Dave Gettleman, more so than anything.
And then the best part is you say, because the compensation came out like a few minutes later. So you're like, we had to have gotten 2 first rounds, and you're like, no, we need more than that. And then they read it off, and it's 1, 3, and Jabril, and you are so livid.
Oh, I was so pissed. It was a 1, a 3, and that 3 was O'Shane Jimenez. Oh my God, that makes it even worse now.
The one was Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, and the one was Dexter Lawrence, which was good, Dexter Lawrence, O'Shane, and Jabril freaking Peppers. And I was so pissed because like in that 2017 draft where Jabril Peppers went, he was like at like my not like I didn't like him as a prospect. Like I thought he was like a first round special teams player,
Punt
like a guy,
returner.
a great returner. Like he was a fantastic returner. But I hated how like one thing I don't like to, a lot of people like, but I'm the opposite. One thing I don't like with college prospects is like too much versatility where you don't really know where to put a guy. Like Jabril Peppers didn't even have he didn't have a set position in college. So I was like, so how are they going to use him? Because the NFL, they don't really have versatile positions. You kind of like play a set position. Like as much as people want to say, versatility, in the NFL, you kind of just play one position,
Play what you're
Sometimes you
good
move
at.
around. Yeah, that you're good. Sometimes you really move around, but they're like guys that are called Swiss Army knives really just find one position in the NFL. Like Jabril Peppers, he was playing like straight up box safety for us,
Yeah.
in Cleveland. He was straight up box safety in Cleveland. Landon Collins, same thing. Landon Collins was everywhere in college. He was a box safety with the Giants. So, I didn't like him as a prospect. And then to find out that we got him, a guy that I didn't like in that draft, I was like, damn it. Damn it.
And the
For
thing-
Odell.
The thing I liked was like I feel like a lot of the Giants community at the time, maybe this was my perception, not being super into the Giants. I was Odell's the reason I started liking the Giants. So when he was traded, it was like a real blow to me. But you had all these Giants fans being like, "No, he wasn't a great culture fit. We got all this compensation." And I always liked watching your videos because you were just as pissed as I feel like so much of the fans were. It was like, finally, someone who's pissed off about this, not like handling it well. So
Yeah, I've come around to it now just because Odell he got hurt a lot.
no one won that trade. No one won that trade.
Yeah, and yeah, nobody definitely won that trade. And Odell got like even if we were to keep him, he got hurt a lot. He just signed like a $20 million contract, which I guess now isn't that expensive compared to what receivers are making now. They're making like a whole $10 million more now. But $20 million. But it doesn't help anything when we have Kenny Golladay here that hasn't done anything, and he's making the same amount of money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you kind of pick your poisons, kind of. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he would have helped DJ maybe come along a little bit more early in his career. But
I think so too. I think
that may have been the importance of Odell was, But either way, the other reaction. So again, just doing my research, I'm scrolling through your YouTube videos, and I see one video that says, "Don't worry, the Giants won't draft Daniel Jones."
Oh my God! Let me tell you that video didn't have much views before they actually drafted Daniel Jones. So I made that video because all these media
Came out of nowhere.
experts and stuff like that. It came out of nowhere. Like literally, dude. Like maybe 2 days before the draft, that the Giants were looking at Daniel Jones. Like, there's no freaking way. There's no way. And because I was like I guess I was like a Haskins fan, R.I.P. Haskins, but
Yeah, seriously.
I was a Haskins fan, but then
Me too.
I kind of jumped off of the Haskins train because I kind of went on the no quarterback train.
Me too.
I just didn't want a quarterback, and I just wanted to wait till Eli was completely done, and hearing Daniel Jones and, did my, film on Daniel Jones, stuff like that. I mean, he was a fine prospect, just like a Trayvon Walker, right? I don't think he's a top 10 dude, but I didn't hate Daniel Jones as a prospect. I just didn't like him as a top, we had the 6th overall pick, so I was like, Daniel Jones? I was like, there's no way the Giants are drafting Daniel Jones. This is all smoke. Guys, don't believe this. Dave Gettleman is the truth, all this stuff. I forgave him for the Odell thing, and I was like, Dave Gettleman is the truth, and look what, and on top of that, Gettleman kept saying, we're getting best player available,
He believed it.
Yeah, and I guess so, yeah, and man, and he drafted Daniel Jones, and literally, dude, I was live for that draft, and I'm seeing my comments, like my notifications on my computer pop up, and I'm like, what is everybody commenting on? It's the freaking video where I said the Giants weren't going to draft Daniel Jones. Literal minutes after they drafted Daniel Jones. It was insane how they just came back. They remembered what I said and they came back to the video just to troll me. I thought it was hilarious. I just played along with it in the comments.
I loved it. And the best part is you see the Giants won't draft Daniel Jones, and then like a video later, you're sitting in a car in all black in the darkness. and it's a reaction to drafting day. I mean, it was so good. I was laughing while I was looking at it. I'm like, this is perfect.
Yeah,
So,
man. It just you just saw a roller coaster of emotions that year, man. Especially that draft, just a roller coaster of emotions.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anyone was happy with Jones, and I get that. And then it's just been up and down since then.
Yeah.
But the reactions are good. You'll have to. I'll be sure for everyone listening. I'll be sure to put links below. I'm sure you'll be doing something for this year's draft, and you guys should definitely check that out because I'm sure. Well, you know what? If Dave Gettleman was still a general manager, I would say I can bet there'll be a good reaction. Maybe with Joe Shane, it'll be so mundane.
If they draft Trayvon Walker, make sure you guys tune in, okay?
And then Garrett Wilson at 7. There will be riots.
Oh my God. Oh man, yeah, I'll be live on my co-host Kush, the Hub.
Yep.
I'll be live with him. It'll be on his channel this year on the first round. Then the second and third round will be on my channel. But yeah, we're definitely gonna be live for that. And if the Giants drop Trayvon Walker, and Joe Shane will be off to a bad start for me.
yeah, that would be rough. And we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So now that I'm looking at it, maybe the script wasn't built well, but now I kind of want to just dive into more about you. So one of the things I like to ask a lot of the people I have on is, when did you get into football? Because for me, it was really late. I didn't get into football till I was in college.
I started football, man, since I was born. I mean, I wasn't as, I guess, I don't know if this is even a word, analytical, as much as I am now, really getting into the numbers, really like wanting to watch film. But I know when I was a kid, I mean, my dad is a huge sports fan in general. Like my dad's, he watches hockey, he watches baseball, he watches basketball and football, all that stuff. But football really, I really was glued to the TV with football. I loved it. I loved watching it every week. I wasn't really a person, I wasn't really a kid, 10, 11 12 years old. I wasn't really a kid to watch every game on, if it was the Bengals versus Texans, I'm not going to really watch that as a kid. But I always tuned in the Giants games, always fell in love with the Giants. Eli, growing up watching Eli was just especially with my young eye, that's the only football I knew. Eli was the only football I knew. So you can imagine how emotional I was when he retired, but he was the only football I knew, and just watching him made me fall in love with the Giants and football even more. And so as the years went on, it was back in I think in I want to say the 11th grade or something like that. I was like, man, I really want to tell people about what I think about football. And I was just make a channel about it.
Yeah. That's where I was going to jump to. What got you into YouTubing, because it's different for everyone too. So
yeah, I mean, I lived in New York at the time. I had a crappy iPod, capable of making videos, so I use that to kind of and I had no editing experience at all. I knew nothing about editing. I knew a little bit about tech stuff, computers and gaming consoles and stuff like that, but I never knew the editing aspect of anything. I didn't know how to talk. If I keep all my videos public.
Me too.
I don't privatize any of them because I want everybody to see
the improvement.
Yeah, exactly. And I like looking at it myself. So you go back all the way to my early years. I'm not even ashamed of it at all. But I was so scared of the camera. So scared of talking to camera. I constantly stuttered, more so than I do now. Completely lost my train of thought half the time. But all I wanted to do was tell people about what I think about the Giants, or what I think about football in general. And as the years went on, I got it upgraded on my phone or something like that. I remember I was using my tablet for some years. Then I got a computer for college that I got, and I used it for YouTube more so than I did college. And I got what is it, Sony Vegas, like a really old version of Sony Vegas. Just started messing with it, just started editing and doing random videos and editing them. And yeah, that's how it happened, man. And then eventually I just caught on to it, started spending a little bit more money on a better computer to hold more memory and RAM and stuff like that, and just started making more videos. And as the years go on, you definitely get more fluent in what you're doing, and video ideas and thumbnails and stuff like that. And from there on, the whole process began.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And one of the things too about YouTubing, I've actually been doing this for about 8 years myself. I just did I used to stream a lot playing a video game called Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
so
cool.
that's kind of like where it started, and then I was like, damn, I don't really play games much, but I watch the Giants all the time, and I actually know like a decent amount about football. Like I follow it, like, but yeah, you gotta like, I don't know what the term is. I want to say you just have to like kind of grind through those bad years. Like if you go back on my old
do. Yeah, it's
videos,
a
oh my
process.
god, the mic, it sounds like I'm speaking into like a fishbowl.
Oh yeah, I knew
Ooh.
nothing about audio. Yeah, and the thing is, I didn't have a trained ear or even a trained eye. So anything like I didn't notice the difference in audio until I started learning about audio. Or I didn't notice the difference in video until I started more about video. It's just you have to train yourself to kind of adapt and like what sounds good, what sounds good to you, and what sounds good to the audience, and then what looks good. And you really, it's all about adapting. Really, it's all about adapting and just adjusting after that.
Yeah, and one of the things, going back through some of the old videos, so I'm a musician myself, and I saw a drum set in some of your old videos,
yes,
and I
yes.
wrote down, I'm like, I gotta ask him. So do you play, or?
I am a drummer. Yeah, I mean, I've been drumming for my whole life. But there was a big hiatus because I was moving around. Then I moved to New York. I couldn't have a drum set in my apartment. So I was drumming ever since I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old. And then when I was 12, I moved to New York, and then stopped drumming up until I was like 18, 19. But then I just started getting back into it. I'm self-taught. I'm not I don't know notes or anything like that, but I've been drumming for a couple of years, and I was drumming for my church as well. But yeah.
Dang, hell yeah, I love it. I'm a
Yeah.
musician as well. I play drums and now I play guitar a lot, but
That's nice. That's something I want to learn is guitar.
oh
Yeah.
hell yeah, yeah. It can be a pain, but it is what it is. But so what kind of music do you like to play? What's like? I mean, obviously being like going to the church and playing the drums for them, but like when you're just chilling at home.
Definitely like I like playing stuff that, a lot of people are like hip hop drummers and stuff like that. I would love to get into that too, but I'm like rock. I go into like Linkin Park stuff. Like
Hell yeah.
I started drumming with Linkin Park, and my dad's a big 80s music guy, so like Journey.
Yep.
And I played like a bunch of these freaking Journey songs. It was one of my favorite things to play. Linkin Park, just anything that had a great drums to it, I would try to play it.
Hell yeah,
Anything,
cool.
especially yeah.
So do you still play?
Yeah, I still play. I don't. That drum set that you saw, that electric drum set, is all broken and shattered
Yeah.
now. But
Oh, yeah.
I have to get a new one in here. But I definitely have space. I have a drum set in my garage, but I wanted to get another electric drum set just because it's
So quiet. You can get the headphones on, time it up with the music really nice. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially if you get a good set, you really don't notice the difference in between the two. And I just want to kind of save the ears of my neighbors, because all these houses are so close together, and I don't want to hear any complaints and an HOA coming after me. So
I feel you there. Dude, I got to give
Yeah.
you props too. Getting a house at such a young age. So I'm 20, Jesus, I'm going to be 27 in May. And I still live in apartments because I'm like, buying a house is such a hurdle. So I just had to give you props. Again, I was like combing through, just doing research. I'm like, geez, you got a house at that young an age? Like, dude, that's an achievement, bro.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you, it was a grind to get here, man. In 2012, I was actually homeless in
Jeez.
Harlem. Yeah, and so we moved down here to Florida. I finished high school, and worked at a crappy, minimum wage restaurant job down here. Then I moved into we were renting houses, me, my mom, and my sister renting houses and stuff like that. And then we eventually moved into this little studio apartment, saved up money. I applied at the post office, started working at the post office, and just started grinding it out, man, saving money, and eventually, I was able to buy myself a house before the market blew up. So,
Dude, it's awful now, let me tell you.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I was able to get in there in time.
Hey, it's probably a pretty like logical correlation, that grind, getting a house, and getting everything figured out, and also then your YouTube channel and grinding, and it's like
I think of it the same way. It's crazy. Just it all happened at the same time too. The grind too from the YouTube, and then because I started YouTube around like 2012, and that's eventually where you started moving around, and just I kind of just kept YouTube with me to keep my mind busy from all the what everything that life was handing me. So I kind of like YouTube was kind of my escape. Talked about football, talked about my passion, and eventually that passion became a kind of a hobby I looked forward to, and then it became something I want to make a potential career out of. So.
Yeah, man, and you've seen some like real growth. Like if you just like look at the numbers, like as you've been doing it, and I always like to ask people this. Does your family and your friends and everyone, do they like realize how well your channel is doing? Like you are like one of the premier Giants content creators. Like you have a ton of subs, like a great community. Like when you look in the comments and stuff, because I comment all the time. I'm usually Will 8000, not Snowstorm Studios though. I have like another YouTube account, but like, do your friends and family like really like do they know like how well you're doing and how great this is going?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, by the way. But yeah, my family is definitely supportive of it. My mom really just saw it as a hobby, and then I remember when I got like I was confronted by some like YouTube sports YouTube prognosticators for like football. And then I felt like that was such a big opportunity, and my family was all aboard on it. And then I started getting involved with like other YouTubers, and my family loved it. And then my friends, a couple of them really know about it, because I don't really like promote it everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
But my close friends know about it. And a funny story too. I'm part of a flag football team, and I got a couple of Eagles fans on there, which is,
God.
I forgave them a while ago for it, but
good for you.
But
real strength.
But my most viewed video it was last year, the Devontae Smith reaction.
How could I not bring that up? That's like it's the Odell, it's the Daniel Jones, and it's Devontae Smith. Those are the three. So, go ahead.
with me and Kush, and that video just. Freaking Eagles fans just blew the hell out of that video and just made it kind of like semi-viral. Like that's my most viewed video there. And I was actually approached by my teammate who texted me. He said, "Dude, is this you?" I was like, "Damn, how'd you know?" I was like, "Damn, how'd you find me?" He's like, "Dude, well, I mean, it was in my suggested. I'm an Eagles fan, so it just popped up." And I'm like, "Well, I guess you guys know I'm a YouTuber." And they're like, "Oh, man, you're doing so well on the channel. You guys got to bring me on," stuff like that. I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, for sure." But I don't really like to like promote it like, "Oh, I'm some YouTuber," or anything like that. But my close friends definitely know it. They definitely on board with it, and they definitely support it. And the people that do know, everyone supports it. I appreciate everybody around me too that support me and give me advice about it or whatever it is. So
hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, it's like it's that humble attitude and stuff. I think that a lot of people, you're just like a fan just talking to us. Like it's very much just like, oh hey, this guy is someone who I'd just be hanging out with, watching the game with. It's not that like, oh, I'm better than you. Like, not that a lot of people have that, but like YouTubers in general. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I see it at the end of the day. I'm just really most of us YouTubers, man, we're just guys with cameras. That's pretty much it, and we do a lot of research that we pretty much do a lot of research so others don't have to, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot of these things we're just fans, like just like everybody else, but we kind of like are trying to go a little bit above and beyond so we can give everybody else the information that we got, you know what I'm saying? So like we're just trying to give everybody all the information and news about the Giants and stuff like that. That's pretty much all we are,
Absolutely. And I talked to Chris the Entertainer about this. We talked about, as First Things First Take, Undisputed, Pro Football Focus, all these shows, or Pro Football Talk, these shows get less and less Giants related and talk less and less about anything Giants fans are interested in. It creates a market for YouTubers to, do that research and bring that information in a palatable way for people who are interested in it,
Yeah, and I would argue even like some channels are like general NFL channels, you know what I mean? And a lot of people are gravitating towards them. Even if people are like, I've always tried to make myself a little bit more of general, but I've only had time to really make Giants content. But like just in general, mainstream sports networks just like you said, palatable. They're not as palatable as like a lot of these YouTubers are, because there's a lot more relatability when you're watching a YouTuber, because they're just like you and me, you know what I'm saying? So like there's a lot more relatability when it comes to watching YouTubers, and it's a lot more interactions. You can talk to them on the comments or Twitter or something like that, and it's just easy to interact with. And I feel like mainstream media is kind of going downhill. Yeah, but they're going a little bit downhill because a lot of people are gravitating towards the YouTube space now.
Yeah, which I love, and people have brought up too. I think it was Football Grump. Giants community, I mean, the Giants community is a little bit spoiled and they don't know it. There are so many creators really creating awesome content.
It's very saturated. It is very saturated. We have a lot of Giants content creators around. I would say probably the most I've ever seen, the most of any fan base I've ever seen. Like, I know a couple of Cowboys content creators. I know a couple of Philly content creators, but there's only just a few of them. I mean, Giants content creators were everywhere, and that's what I love about this community, man. It's like you have content no matter where you look, no matter where you go, where you look, you have content, and these are all we all know each other. We all somewhat know each other. We know of each other. Sometimes there'll be collabs and stuff like that. I know Bad Dog. I know Chris. I obviously know Kush. I'm meeting you. It's we all kind of know each other, so there isn't just a set clique. Everybody's fan base is involved with everybody else's fan base.
It's all
you see a lot of people exactly,
which is awesome, which is absolutely awesome. And one of the things I really like about your channel, and why I've been a viewer for a couple of years now, is you do the short snippet, kind of update stuff. But then I love the Young Gun podcast with you and Kush. I really dig it.
Appreciate it.
Again,
man.
Will 8000. That's been me, not Snowstorm.
Gotcha.
Someone said I've never seen you in there. I'm like, well, you're not gonna see this channel.
Oh, gotcha.
But
okay.
How did that relationship start with the hub, and how is it's just I enjoy it a lot. So.
Yeah, man, it was kind of spontaneous, really, because he actually was a viewer that would call in to those call-in shows I used to do a couple of years ago.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was actually a caller that used to, and me and him, it was just a connection. Me and him, the chemistry was great. I've talked to him every call-in show he would call in. And me and him just went back and forth talking about stuff. We would agree on a lot of things, but if we disagreed on some things, it was very easy to kind of give our takes between them. And he was saying that he wanted to create a channel. I'm like, dude, go ahead. I mean, go ahead if that's what you want to do, and you're committed in doing it. Go ahead and make yourself a channel. So he made his channel. And he asked me to come on for a collab, to do this pre-recorded sort of, I guess a pre-recorded podcast. I guess it was
sounds a little familiar.
Maybe a 20 minute podcast at the time. But yeah, we did that, and then we started working together more. Started going live. I'm like, man, let's make a live podcast. Let's do something every week. I'm like, dude, for sure. He's like, he was a very small YouTuber at the time. I'm like, I don't care, man. Me and you just we're very close in age. We get along extremely well, and we even play games with each other sometimes. On Xbox or something like that. We talk like regular friends when we text.
That's awesome.
Me and him, developed a really good relationship. Me and Kush, and yeah, man, that's how it started. He just called into. He was a viewer, and then and let me tell you, man, Kush is. I will say this right now. Kush, to me, is my favorite YouTuber, one of my favorite YouTubers right now, man. The work that this kid puts in, man, is
crazy.
Absolutely insane. The editing, the time he takes to put into those edits as well, and how smart he is in doing it, the creativity as well, and man, he's up there, man. I'm really happy to have gotten to know him and work together with him too. So
yeah, I don't know how I feel about him wanting to take 2 offensive linemen at 5 and 7, but I'm still
man. I was like, Kush, you can't tell me, man. You can't me and him. That's what took me for a shock too, because me and him usually have the same mind. We're usually on the same page when it comes to certain things like this, and he was shocked that I didn't want that. If you look back at the video, he saw my reaction and thought I would be happy about it. And once I said that I would hate it, he's like, you would hate it. I was like, wait, you would like it? I was like,
it was finally a fight in the marriage. It was here we go. They do disagree.
Oh man, yeah, that was a debate right there, man. I was like, why? I don't know why. I mean, he stated a good case, but I think I won the debate. I
Yeah,
think
oh
I
no,
won.
no, you definitely did. But he was making his point pretty well too. He was saying he's like, hey, I'm just saying it wouldn't bother me. He's like, I agree with you. Let's trade down, and then if we took 2 offensive linemen, I'm good with it. He's
Yeah.
like, but if we did do it, I wouldn't be.
Wouldn't be too upset. And I could understand that because it's not like you're taking 2 bad offensive linemen. You're taking 2 fantastic offensive linemen that in any case, if we picked one of those guys, I would be ecstatic for. Like Ikem and Neal would love that. Just a combination of both because
We
really
have
you're
so many
turning one.
holes.
Yeah, you're really turning one to guard. So what does that mean? You're really drafting a guard in the top 10. And when does that ever happen besides Quentin Nelson? And not only are you taking a guard top 10, you're taking a tackle top 10 that you're moving to guard. So you're not only are you taking a guard, but you're moving him from another position to guard. So
On a team that has a ton of holes.
exactly. And that's
Yeah,
why I
that's why
said
you
that's
win.
why I said that's why I said if we had just a random situation, right? If we had a fantastic team throughout,
Yeah.
maybe we had a couple holes here and there. Maybe we needed a slot corner or something like that. But if we had pretty much a very balanced out roster but we had a terrible offensive line, I would be sure go for it. If you can take Neal and Iquanu and kind of shore up that offensive line just in 1 year, go ahead and do it. But we have so much holes on this team, and we are so cap strapped right now. It's like we can't get free agents anywhere. We're all we got. We're gonna have to draft as much guys at different positions, kind of balance out the roster. I wouldn't mind double dipping, in later rounds, but when you have a chance to get 2 blue chip prospects, I would try to get like one on in each position that you can, like edge rush and offensive line, or whatever the
Corner
case
and
may
offensive
be.
line. Yeah. No,
Right.
yeah. You win the debate. You win the debate for sure. I give it to you. Here on the Snowcast, I will mail you the trophy. You won that debate. So.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
One of the things watching your channel, especially last year, it felt like you knew Dave Gettleman was done when you were done with Dave Gettleman, because you were one of the biggest Dave Gettleman supporters I followed, and I was with you. But I wanted to ask you again. I forget when, but I knew when you weren't happy with Gettleman. I remember I was on my couch. I'm like, oh shit, he might not be around next year. If Kid Blue's not on Dave Gettleman's side, no one is. What was the final straw for you with Dave Gettleman? And you were always honest, and I'm not giving you a hard time about it. But you were one of the people who was always like, oh man, no, trust in Gettleman. We gotta trust.
Yeah. It was just probably it was like the needle that broke the camel's back. Like, it wasn't one specific thing.
Yep.
It was just a bunch of things that just built up to it, because like we talked about it earlier, right? We talked about the Odell thing earlier. Although in hindsight, maybe, like I said, it really didn't, there was no win on either side, and we still got Dexter Lawrence out of it, and who knew what Odell could have brung to us after if we didn't trade him, because he was always hurt. But I forgave him for that. I forgave him for Daniel Jones, although I'm a Daniel Jones supporter because he's a Giants quarterback.
Hell yeah,
Let's
I'm
be,
with you.
I love Daniel Jones. I want him to be the franchise quarterback, but let's be real here. I mean, was he really the guy? Was he really a franchise guy? And to begin with, when we drafted him, probably not. But then you go through free agency, right? And I defended Dave Gettleman as far as free agency goes in his early years. A lot of people were upset about the Kareem Martin signing, Patrick Omameh, Antoine Bethea. But people have to remember that, we were kind of cap strapped in those times too when Dave Gettleman took over the team, because we had just spent money on the 2016 team. We spent like over $200 million.
The mercenaries.
Yeah, and that went downhill. That's what got Jerry Reese fired. So Dave Gettleman kind of took control of a very cap strapped team. We didn't have a lot of money, so he had to find ways to try to overpay average players to try to get on this team to provide some talent to the team. In hindsight, obviously, you probably should just let it be how it is and save up money and then eventually, buy players. But a lot of people were mad about Antoine Bethea. I don't think Antoine Bethea even signed like more than $1 million on the contract. Like, people were pissed about his signing. I mean, he signed a veteran minimum deal.
Yeah.
Patrick Omameh, I know was a decent fair share amount of money. But like, I would defend Dave Gettleman when those free agencies. Like, I was like, he was just filling in holes, and until we were able to get more cap space, and then we could make some big splashes. But then this prior year here, man, I really felt like the Giants were going to be able to compete this year.
Oh.
I really, and
We
it's
say
crazy
that
because
every podcast. I say that
I,
every podcast.
it's crazy because I wouldn't call myself necessarily a pessimist, but I feel like I just a realist. You know,
I
I
agree.
always had the team. If I didn't think the team was going to be good, I would tell you everybody I didn't think the
Yep.
team was going to be good. But I really felt like the team was going to be good. You know, with Kenny Galladay, with Adoree Jackson, all these acquisitions that we brung in, and how Dave Gettleman went all out. Like he spent every last penny last free agency. Like we had like no rollover money at all. Like he threw all the chips on the table and said this is going to be a playoff team. And props to him for doing that, but it didn't work. And although it's not necessary, everything is on Dave Gettleman's fault. Obviously, the coaching took a huge part in that because coaching was garbage.
Horrible.
You know, I love Joe Judge, but I loved him who he is as a coach and a player. I mean, as a coach and just a guy, a well-rounded guy in general. But the coordinators were garbage. The play calling was garbage. Everything was bad. And I was just saying, you really can't get rid of these guys without getting rid of Dave Gettleman. And although I like Dave Gettleman, there's just not enough for me to say we have to give him another year. There was just not enough there. They haven't had one winning season with him. We haven't even gotten close to 500 with him. We have to move on. And you're not going to get rid of Joe Judge before Dave Gettleman because Joe Judge is fairly new. It's his second year. You can't get rid of Joe Judge without getting rid of Dave Gettleman. You can't get rid of all these coordinators without getting rid of the coach and then getting rid of Dave Gettleman. Like, it all worked up the ladder. And I was like, listen, I just want a fresh start. Nothing personal for Dave Gettleman. I felt like I knew what he was trying to do because in all my mock drafts that I did with Dave Gettleman in Dave Gettleman's regime, I actually did a pretty good job predicting what positions he would attack and what players he would try to get after. Like, I knew what Dave Gettleman wanted to do. It just didn't work out. And unfortunately, you're not going to stick around just because, people understand what you're trying to do. You have to show results. And Dave Gettleman, unfortunately, did not do that. And we had to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, a lot of people will say, oh, well, it was an injury-ridden season. Oh, like, we had the most players go down. Yeah, but that's when you learn how good a GM is. If you look at, like, the 49ers or the Browns. Like, the 49ers year before, Gio, the year before, the 49ers lost all of their starters basically in 2 weeks. Week 3, they pounded us. They had no starters, and they pounded us.
Remember that game. I remember that game.
I remember your video on that game, my friend, and you were rip shit. You were not happy about it. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that is a great GM to have that much depth. And when the Giants lost their guys, our team crumbled. That's like the biggest like bad omen for a GM is if you don't have depth, because players are gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
We had no depth.
Especially you have to prepare for the worst. Like that was a fantastic example that you brought up was the 49ers last year. And this is why I wanted Joe Schoen was my number one guy at the time. I don't know. I kind of alternated Adam Peters and Joe Schoen because they're coming from really good franchises.
Yep.
But Adam Peters, the candidate assistant GM for the 49ers, he was that was one of the reasons why I was very, very keen on him. And I said, let's give this guy a try, Adam Peters, because I remember that year they lost their entire defensive line to injuries.
Still competitive.
I mean, yeah, Bosa was out for the year. Yeah, linebackers out. They had no secondary at all. They had offensive linemen out. They were probably on the like fourth freaking running back. They had depth, and not only depth. Even if you brought in guys from the street, they had a game plan. They were scheme over team. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So their scheme was very adaptable that even the most freaking worst players can probably fit well in those schemes. And that's, unfortunately, although the GM doesn't have too much control of scheme, he definitely has say in who gets to call those schemes. Who's hired.
And who he drafts to fits those schemes,
Exactly. And so, that's why I'm excited about Joe Schoen, because we talked about Adam Peters and his depth. Look at the Buffalo Bills depth. They have a lot of depth over there, and I'm sure with Joe Schoen being, Brandon Beane's sort of protege for almost 20 years, that goes a long way. His mindset is probably damn near the same thing as Brandon Beane's mindset when it comes to building a team. So, That's why I'm very excited about Joe Shane in the future. With how we can get this, before the scheme, how we can get this team and their depth going. We
Yep.
really need depth, because you can have 22 all-star players, but if they go down and you have terrible depth, you can be a middle of the pack type team, or even a below 500 team without depth. You need guys to fill in, and they have to have them on healthy contracts too, team friendly contracts, where they're there on a cheap contract, and they're there to perform as if your starter was there in the first place. That's how you have to build a team. That's why I'm excited about Joe Shane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was, we learned about Dave Gettleman through not having the depth. And then I liked what you said earlier about versatility. Sometimes that's not the best thing either, because Joe Judge used to preach two things, and this is why Joe Judge is gone. He said, we're not going to beat ourselves. The Washington game last year broke me as a Giants fan. It broke me.
Oh my God.
I have never...
Dexter Lawrence jumping off.
I'm not joking. I had to go to therapy. I was so destroyed by that. I couldn't believe it. I'm not joking, but I'm just saying, like, so bad. And then secondly, he said, we're not going to fit square pegs into round holes. When you're trying to be versatile like Joe Judge was trying to be all the time, he was putting guys in spots they probably shouldn't be in.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was like Dave Gettleman didn't build the depth, but then Joe Judge had no clue how to coach him. Like, you got to give Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, you got to give Kevin Stefanski and the Browns. They're another team that I think have great depth.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
So it's definitely, it was a mess. It was a mess. But, you stuck with Gettleman, and I appreciated it, and I stuck with Gettleman, too, quietly, because I wasn't making videos. But when Shermer was fired, I was like, no, don't fire Gettleman. Let's see what he's got. And, it is what it is.
Yeah. But, I mean, we're on to bigger and better things, I would hope, bringing in, Shane and Daboll, and and Wink Martindale, man. Oh, my God. I mean, on paper, this last season made me so skeptical about any next season after this. Like,
Yep.
with I want to be so excited about Shane. I want to be so excited about Daboll, Wink Martindale. Like, that is such a
amazing.
If you look at the candidates that we were trying to, when we hired Pat Shurmur, when we hired Joe Judge, when we got Dave Gettleman, these were guys that the NFL media or NFL fans nobody cared about where Dave Gettleman went. Nobody was like, oh, we want Dave Gettleman. Oh, the Giants took him. Damn. Nobody was doing that. Nobody was saying, oh, damn, the Giants got Pat Shurmur. Wow, I wanted my team to get. No, nobody was doing that. This year, Joe Shane was probably arguably the best GM candidate on the market. Daboll was definitely up there as well, top 5 probably, maybe even top 3 in the head coaching market. Wink Martindale broke Twitter when he got fired. Everybody wanted Wink Martindale. You're getting guys now that are highly regarded in the NFL and highly sought after from all these NFL teams that need upgrades at those positions, like head coach and defensive coordinator, GM. You got them all on one team. And so, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about.
Absolutely.
But we've seen this type of thing before, So I'm just going to wait to see what happens.
It's so funny you say that, because my girlfriend, who I live with, she's really into football too, and she watches the Giants with me.
Oh, man, marry that girl, okay?
But, she tells me, because when they hired Daboll, when we lost to Washington, I was broken. Like I said, it broke me. That was the moment where I said, I don't know if I can watch the Giants anymore. I don't know if I can do this.
That was a hard game,
man. I couldn't believe it.
Wasn't that like week 2, wasn't it?
Week 2, and it was
so early in the season.
And of course, the game Daniel Jones finally plays well in, the whole team around him plays horrible.
That seems like that's Daniel Jones' thing, man.
Yeah, and so he plays well, and the defense couldn't stop Taylor Heineke at the end of the game. But so I'm broken, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna watch a different team. It's like I'm in an abusive relationship with the Giants. I need a break.
You're gonna go cheat.
And so what did I do? I watched the Bills. And when I watch football, like before I started doing the podcast and all this, I would watch all the interviews with the GM, the coaches, the coordinators. I fell in love with Brian Dable and Joe Shane. So I go back
so
to
you got a first-hand look at
before
Dable,
we hired them.
Nice.
And so when we were hiring them, or when it was in the process, I'm with you. Joe Shane was my number one choice. I was like, the Bills know how to build a team. I would tell my girlfriend, because she was pissed at me. She's like, I can't believe you're watching the Bills. Like, she kept watching the Giants. And so I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'd pull up the Bills game next to it. I'm like, I can't. And I would tell her, I'm like, you should see how they built their team. This is why they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got them, I was so excited. But you're right. We can't be too excited because this could all go horribly. And we'll be right back here next year being like, shit.
I know, and to your point, watching the Bills, man, last year it was so. I was so happy when we got a bye week. So I'm like, I'm not forced to like, because I would be working during the game. Some of the games I'll be working, so I would like listen on the radio, to the games. I'm like, I'm not forced to watch them. I'm not forced to listen to them. I'm not forced to do anything like that. I can like listen to another team or something like that, or watch another game. Last year, I was really enjoying watching any other team play
that wasn't the Giants.
Besides the Giants. Like I swear, I could have watched the two worst teams go against each other and probably get enjoyment out of it. You know, when it came to the Giants, I was just set up for disappointment time and time again. You know, the best game I probably watched last year was probably Carolina. You know, we beat them like 25-3. It was our only blowout we had in like freaking 3 years. You know, so that was probably the most complete game the Giants played. Either that one or the overtime win against the Saints, which was great.
Insane, great game.
Yeah, and then the Raiders game was good as well, but we it looked like we were gonna lose that game until McKinney saved us. Yeah. But. Yeah, I mean, even the Carolina game, you know, was it fantastic? No, I don't even think Daniel Jones even got close to 300 yards.
It was 5-3 until the fourth quarter.
Exactly. Okay, yeah. So it was, like I said, that was probably the most complete game they played, and even so, you know, it would still look like we were gonna lose. We're biting our nails, you know. So. Yeah, I mean, this team has a long way to go before we even consider them to be, you know, to not worry about them as much. Because every time I turn on the TV, I'm like, how can we lose this one? And what possible way can we lose this game?
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And you know, the final quick thing about the offside thing, I love everyone coming out. He wasn't offsides. He wasn't offsides. Who the hell cares? We lost the game. It's not like the NFL is gonna say, "Oh no, wait, Giants win." So it's like,
oh my god, yeah.
Everyone was getting all bent out of shape on Twitter. I'm like, shut up. It doesn't matter. So my friend, that game broke me.
Yeah.
That's the lowest I've ever been in football ever. But you're right. We have new people here, and I've been preaching this now for the last 9 episodes that we should be excited about. So final thing I want to talk to you about, hopes for next year. What is like a successful season for you next year? You know, some people care about competitive, some people care about wins, some people care about stats. Like, where do you fall, and like what is important for you next year?
I really want to establish which players are Giants franchise players. I really want to take this year and, you know, obviously Dable is going to be getting his scheme together. There's going to be some growing pains when it comes to that.
Yep, there is.
You know, I hear Wink Martindale has a pretty complicated scheme. That's what I hear. I haven't really dived into that, but I hear he has a complicated scheme. So we'll see how that goes with the defense. Like, there's going to be growing pains with this new regime. So that's something that I am definitely not going to be looking or really critiquing on. Will I notice it? Yes, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But I really want to establish who our future, like, who should be on this team in next year's. Like, there's a lot of, this team is very young. Although we have a lot of free agents, this team is still very young. This defense is very, very young. You know, who are the guys that we're going to be keeping around, and who can we really build a team around, and who needs to get the hell out of here? Because although we are a very young team, we are a very expensive team. This team, you know, we are just under the cap. You know, just under the cap.
How did we have the most
line.
Expensive wide receiver room and the least touchdowns by wide receivers?
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that stat and I was like, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me we had the most expensive wide receiver room.
Hurts.
Yeah. It's It's crazy. But yeah, I really, the competitiveness is something. I'm not too focused on wins, but the more, everybody says that. I don't really care too much about wins. Even I say that every year. I don't care about wins, but then I watch these games, I'm like, damn it, we lost.
It's easy to say in April. It's easy to say in April.
Yeah,
I don't care
very
about
easy
wins.
to say. Oh, I just want to see growth from the team. And then, but we knew we lose a nail biter to a great team. We should have won that game. Oh my god. So I can say I don't care about wins all I want. I want to win. But
Of course.
at the end of the day, I want to see this team compete because so many times, especially last year, this team wasn't able to compete. We could have kept the score. It's one of those things where even if the score was close, it didn't look close. Teams were running all up and down, our defense. We were 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. There was no continuity with this team at all. There was no, the only time we put up points was something spontaneous, like something random freaking happened and we scored points. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. We only had 50 yards of offense through 3 quarters, so that's something I really want to see is just continuity, especially with the offense. I'm not too worried about the defense. Like I said, I know Wink Martindale's scheme may be difficult, but I feel like we have a pretty talented defense, if I say so myself, but our offense needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
And especially how bad, I don't think people realize how bad this Giants offense was last year. Dude, if Daniel Jones wasn't in the lineup, and this is why I have appreciation for Daniel Jones.
Me too.
Oh my God, Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm could not. Dude, I went to the Washington game, Week 18, biggest regret of my life. But I went to that game, and oh my God, when you see it in person,
you saw the QB sneaks.
Bad,
wow.
Yes. Oh, I was right in front of the QB sneaks, man. I was in that section, dude. I saw it was 2 QB sneaks in a row, and Jake Fromm had 10 yards passing through the whole quarter. Through the whole half. They couldn't throw the ball, and it wasn't just the quarterback's fault. The routes were terrible. They were just run a curl route, and then the defense knew what was happening. They were doubling up everybody. Kenny Golladay was always doubled up. They couldn't run the ball at all because they knew Saquon Barkley was going to get the ball on first and second down. It was so bad and so pitiful. That is something I'm really. So if you ask me that question, probably my number one answer would have to be, I want to see this offense improve. I really want to see this offense develop, and with the mind that Brian Daboll has,
and Mike Kafka,
Mike Kafka as well. Yeah, I completely forgot about him. But Mike Kafka, fantastic hire, and especially he's a young buck too, man.
Yeah,
he's
love
young,
it.
And so he has that new kind of mindset of football. I want to see. Everybody does this whole comparison with Josh Allen. And I was one of those people too. So, but I'm not saying I think he's going to be Josh Allen. But if you look at the development of Josh Allen, where he was as a prospect, because he was, in my opinion, he wasn't a great, fantastic prospect.
No.
He had potential. That's why he was drafted so high. But he wasn't good. He was like Jameis Winston his first 2 years. He was a turnover machine his first 2 years. Josh Allen was damn near close to being a bust. His third year when they got Stephon Diggs, he completely went off. And I'm not saying it was all Stephon Diggs, but it just clicked for Josh Allen. It just clicked. And so I'm hoping in Daniel Jones' 4th year, it's going to click with Brian Daboll there. Kenny Golladay, Brian Daboll, Saquon, and hopefully an improved offensive line. Kadarius Toney hopefully staying healthy. Sterling Shepard, if he can, not get another concussion. So
even get Darius Slayton back to what he was his rookie year.
Exactly. If you can get, they had a great chemistry, especially the rookie season.
Yeah.
The rookie season, those two guys were money together. If you can just get Daniel Jones to, oh my God, this makes sense. Just have it slow down for him a little bit. That it can go a long way, man. It can really go a long way. I really want to see this offense improve, and I really want Daniel Jones to be the guy. I don't want to have to go out and get another quarterback and then wait another 3 years to see if that person's the guy. So.
I'm with you. Just a quick note on the Jason Garrett, that offense. My problem was they'd run up the gut first and second down. On 3rd and 10, he'd throw it deep. He wouldn't even just try to get the 10 yards to maybe even get close. But then you get to the end of the season where nothing matters. You might as well just huck it and see what guys have.
Yeah.
No, we're QB sneaking it.
Yeah, we're QB sneaking and we're throwing freaking 5-yard hitches. What are you doing with how how blasphemous that you have Kenny Galladay, who's the best contested, like one of the best 50-50 ball guys in the NFL.
Running curls.
Running curl routes. Running like little drags. Like, what are you... Man, give him a freaking deep post and see what he can do. Give him a freaking comeback route or something like that. Send him on a 9 route or something. You know, it's just like... Man, it was so backwards. So freaking backwards.
It's been a tough couple of years, but, I think it's good to end on a high note that we have some people in place that we can be excited about as Giants fans. Dude, Gio, I want to have you back on, my friend. This was a great time. I think we'll have to, if you're available at some point, draft recap at some point once things quiet down. We'll have to go through it. I really, really appreciate you being on. It was nice getting to meet you. Like I said, I've been watching you forever. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you're a very busy guy with YouTube, with work, and everything else. So thanks for being here.
Hey, man, this is great. I appreciate you having me, man. I would definitely come back on.
Guys, all the links for Kid Blue, for Gio, are going to be down below for his podcast, for the Hub, all of his socials like Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Gio, thank you again for being here, my friend. And everyone watching, have a good one.